We are live now.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. You're welcome to the AYLF Dialogue Series. My name is Desmina Enchi. I'm the Ghana president, and excuse the shadows. I found myself in darkness today, but we're good to go. I don't know how it has been with you, but then I hope everyone had a good weekend and you had a good rest. Tomorrow is Monday, and we begin our weekday. But then, what a way to start the week by discussing important issues that are disturbing society, that has become menace, that are getting us to think as youth and keep us on our toes, and also to challenge the status quo, and also government policies, draw their attention. That is, if they claim they haven't seen, draw the government attention and some of these things that we as young adults feel like the government needs to, see to. Today we'll be discussing, as a continuation of a previous discussion we had about 2 weeks ago, a menace that is gradually eating, has become a cankerworm and gradually eating into our system here in Ghana, where props, I call them props, they are dead, remains of dead people are mishandled and played with, showcased in various agonizing styles and spaces, and people even go to the extreme of touching these people and playing with them, perhaps in their own world they're trying to have a last time with their loved person. But is that what is meant to be? Whatever happens to rest in peace, are they going to rest in peace? Are they supposed to be laid in peace? What is happening, we don't understand. But today, on the AYLF dialogue series, we have all the experts here and a witness. We'll be discussing further deeper into this menace that is eating the Ghanaian society. Today, with us, we have Dr. Raymond. He is the head of pathologist department at the Mbarara University of Science and Technology, and also the Mbarara Hospital. And we are also going to have lawyer Audrey, who's of Ghanaian descent. She's also a young lawyer, and then also she is executive secretary here at AYLF, and she'll also be joining us, giving us all the legal aspects, while Dr. Raymond is giving us all the medical aspects. Lawyer Audrey will also be telling us the legal aspect of these things. 2 weeks ago, when we had the show, the series with our president and founder, from his legal perspective also, he gave us legal terms and legal jargons and some bylaws and sections. Remember, he was quoting some section Q's and R's and all of that. And for me, being a layman, I probably didn't understand. But today, Audrey is going to delve more deeper into that with us as well. And we also have a witness, Nana Kwamena, Ato Kwamena, who is also a witness who has seen some of these deeds being done physically. He was there, he witnessed it, and he also want to take his mind on what he saw, his perspective on what he saw, and he's already told us backstage, but if he doesn't come, we'll tell you. But we're hoping that he makes an appearance and tell us by himself, so it doesn't feel like we're putting words in his own mouth. So I would like to, on behalf of some of my panelists, apologize to viewers and listeners because some of them are running late. It's raining in some parts here. It's raining here since like hours, and my lights are off, and I'm sure Audrey is probably facing the same issue, network and other stuff. So some of them may be joining us later because of network and other challenges. But of course, I have Dr. Raymond here, and I'm going to start with him. And hopefully we get the other panelists to join whilst the show begins. So good evening again, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Jasmine Edgy, and I'm your host of the AYLF Dialogue Series. Dr. Raymond, good evening. I don't know the time it is over there, but then good evening.
Yes, good evening. Thank you very much. It's 21:17 hours, East African time. Yeah, definitely getting late. I think should be 3 hours ahead of you people. So Probably your day is much younger than ours.
Yes, yes, yes. Our apologies for
Yeah.
keeping you up till this time. You probably be resting and all of that, but we also feel like there's a very important and dear topic to our hearts, and then we need your specialized input on this one. So tell us a bit about your background. I mean, I've introduced you, but I want to know you beyond what AYLF knows.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation and for the brief introduction. I'm called Raymond Atwine. I'm a pathologist by training, and currently the head of Department of Pathology at Improper University of Science and Technology in Uganda. Of course, as well as Improper Regional Referral Hospital, which is the teaching hospital for the Improper University of Science and Technology. I think as a pathologist, this topic touches my heart because literally part of our job is to deal with the deceased or the dead people in that case. So when I heard of what is supposed to happen or what is happening, I thought it was really good for me to come and share with you and also share with me as well. Some of the things that we do, especially related to the deceased, is that, we really associate a lot with the funeral companies, which of course take away the bodies for burial because they usually pick the bodies from the Department of Pathology, the mortuary section, or the Department of Pathology. And also we are able to dispose of the deceased, especially those who are not claimed. We are able to dispose them off. So we interact a lot with the dead, really. So this topic really touches my heart in very many aspects in that case. But of course, on top of that, we do other things like diagnostics, looking at biopsies, cytology specimens, and a few other things that are related to diagnosis of the different disease processes that are happening in both the living and the dead. Yeah, so I think that should be enough introduction, unless if you want more. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Well, thank you very much, Doctor, for being on board today's
Yes.
tonight's series. We're honored to have you here and also to further discuss this canker worm that is eating us. But then before we delve deeper, I want to ask, I know you're in Uganda, but then social media, so there are no boundaries and no limitations lately. But have you seen what has gotten us here, why we are here today? Have you seen videos um going around social media of cops um being laid in states in the unusual way? They're no longer lying on their backs in bed. Some of them are sitting, some of them are eating, some of them are selling. It's chaos when you go to funerals in rural settings lately. I want to ask if you've seen um so any of these videos, I mean, with social media bridging the gap.
Yes, yes, definitely. I've seen a lot of the videos. I think most of them are probably not Uganda, but around Africa, including Ghana, where people are definitely being deceased are put in inappropriate vessels or containers or coffins, as per se, and in inappropriate positions, like you said, either seated or bending or something like that. So I've seen a lot of videos, and definitely that is something that really touches really the deepest part of my heart. So yeah, so I have. There are also a few cases where we have seen probably due to limited equipment, there are a few cases where we see probably bodies being wheeled from the wards to the mortuary on inappropriate kind of equipment, like probably wheelchairs instead of using trolleys. So yeah, so it is a problem that I think it's across the whole of Africa, and it's a problem that we need to come together in order to solve.
Right. Okay. Yeah. For me, I can tell for a fact that most of these videos that you see are coming from my part of the world, at the rural
Yeah.
areas of Ghana, which is a new trend. It's almost like if you die and you're being buried and you're not laid in state in this way, you're not in vogue. Like your funeral was not lit. Your funeral was not something people will talk about. And so families sit back and watch all of these things happening to their loved ones, and of course who are dead, their dead ones as well. I want to talk deeper. So you mentioned something like you said earlier that sometimes how the body is even moved from the ward to the cold room or the mortuary is even inappropriate. Where instead of being put on a trolley, they are being put on wheelchairs. In some cases, some are being wrapped up and carried or by the morgue workers or something. Can we say that it, this is the beginning of where we find ourselves? Like this is the genesis of it all. Probably the family being at the morgue, seeing that, oh, even the morgue people, I mean, they're humans like us, but they still handle the corpse in an unusual way where they're supposed to, because I know that it's supposed to be put on the trolley and covered with some metal or something. Sometimes I don't know what it is, but often I've seen something like the way a bread bean is. You they put them there, they cover them, and in certain circumstances, I've seen them also being pushed away and on the beds, trolley beds, and covered with cloth. And now the new discovery I've had this evening is that the wheelchair and probably being held together by two or more people because none of these equipment are available. Can I say that? Then this is how it began because people realized that okay, at least they're mishandling the person, nothing is happening. So we can also do the same.
Yes, yes, I think partly that would definitely be the genesis of some of these problems in our setting, because if probably the relatives saw that, their patient or their deceased relative was put on a wheelchair or probably in an inappropriate position, so they probably would think it's okay for them to also do it, since probably the little bit of more educated, in quotes, people are doing the same thing. So it could be the genesis of that. But of course, I think there could be other problems as well in our setting. So I really agree that that could be part of the genesis of the issues in that case. So starting from that setting may actually be very important for the effect to be felt across the funeral company people and other people involved in the burial.
Right. So being a pathologist, a quick one. If based on what we just discussed, I could say that okay, before then, the body has not been injected with any medication. The body is still fresh. And sometimes I know people are moved once you're declared dead, you move into a cold room before you actually put in the morgue. So sometimes some people may have been up, probably they were in some coma, whatever, whilst in the cold room. Some of these things might have happened. But once you're put in the fridge, you are in a different state altogether. And for you to stay in the fridge for some time, we're in a setting where people actually have to in my part of the world, funeral is one of the celebrations. When we're talking about celebrations, marriage and festivals, and we can say funerals are one of major celebrations. So people take time to gather money, raise enough funding to hold the funeral for their loved ones. It's almost like a competition if you don't have a good funeral when the casket is not nice, the people didn't get food, paraphernalias were not shared. So people actually take their time. You don't get the good band or the good cultural troupe to come and display. All of these things go into account. Lately, the new thing in here is people are even using POS at funerals. The last funeral I went to, they had POS, and so you could slot in your card and do your donations. So funeral itself has kind of like move on to the next level. But in this case where the person, the family didn't have the resources, the person has been kept in the morgue for about 1, 2, 3, 4 months. Some people are kept over years in the morgue. And over the time, I know you people inject them with medications and other stuff so the body doesn't go bad. I mean, I'm not a pathologist, but from the previous state to where they were declared dead to then, there's a difference, right?
Yeah, definitely. There's a difference, definitely, in the state of the body that is fresh and one that has probably either taken long in the cold room or either has been injected with treatment or embalmed in the medical term, as we would say in that case. So yeah, so surely there's a difference between those two states, the fresh state and then the one that has taken the cold room and one that has been embalmed in that case. But of course, just coming from that point is that as much as we want to keep these bodies in the cold room, they shouldn't be in the cold room for a very long time. In that case, because the longer they stay there, the longer they expose the room to other things that probably may not be unwanted. So I think it should be, of standard practice that the bodies are taken for burial as soon as possible, because sometimes the longer you stay in the cold room, the more money you pay, so it becomes a bit expensive for the relatives of the deceased in that case. So I think that should be the case, so that we prevent any unnecessary infectious processes that may arise from prolonged exposure of the body in the mortuary or in the cold room, as that says. So yeah, so I think to answer your question, yeah, the state is different, definitely, and of course we do that in order to prevent decomposition of the body, so that as much as the state is different, but it remains in its in a proper state, that the body can be appreciated by the relatives of the deceased in that case. So it is very important for it to go to the cold room, very important for it to be embalmed, but the body shouldn't stay so much long in the cold room or at the mortuary as per se. Because if you realize in our setting, really, actually some settings in Africa, they're under-resourced. Because of that, you may find the cold room is probably not functioning very well. Or if it's functioning very well, you may find that it has a low capacity. You understand? So if you keep the body there for 1 month, and it means you are probably occupying space for probably 10 other bodies that would have been there for 2 to 3 days in that case, or even 30 days if the body is supposed to be there for 1 day in that case. So in our setting, it may not really be cost effective and may not be very appropriate for us to to keep the bodies there for a long time in that case. Yeah, so I think that is really my humble submission.
Thank you very much, Doc. So if you're just joining us, you're watching the AYLF Dialogue series here on YouTube and also our other social media handles. If you don't know about us, we are a group of young African adults who are changing the narrative and changing the African story here at AYLF. I would like you to join, follow us, and be a part of the AYLF network if you're not, because that's where all the connection happen. My name is Daisy Mina Enchi, and I'm the Ghana president for AYLF. And with me for the discussion this evening, I have with me Dr. Raymond Achene. He's the head of pathologist at the Mbarara University of Science and Technology in Uganda, and also he's a medical doctor pathologist slash at the Mbarara teaching hospital affiliated to the university as well. And we've been discussing what happens in regard to pathologist to a dead body before it comes back to the family. So tune in, you're not missing, you're at the right place, and send your comments or your questions to Doc in the comment section and we would ask him. So Doc, what are some of the medications that you inject or you embalm with? And aside, what is happening now? What is in vogue? Do you do more injection or more embalming? And how is each process like? For the injection, I can assume that you mix concoction of medication and you inject the person. For the embalming, it looks more like you smear something on the skin of the person. So I want more enlightenment. And then also, some medications you use to do these things, and the process in which you do this. Please, public, notice that everything we have been discussing is not for you to go and use. We're just learning for educational purposes. So whatever medications Dr. Atwene mentions, please don't go and use it for your own personal gains. Thank you very much. So, Doc, that's my question. What processes do you guys take the body through? What is involved now? Do you do more embalming or more injection? And what's the effect?
Okay, thank you very much for that wonderful question. And you have definitely been able to bring out a very important point. And this point is very important because embalming does not only prevent, decomposition, but also inactivates other infectious agents. So in the essence, it makes the body less infectious,
Oh,
but not completely uninfectious in that case, because it's the preservatives that we use are able to inactivate different bacteria and other pathogens. That, of course, may be infectious in that case. And this is definitely very, very vital, especially if you are taking out a body to the community and doing those inappropriate things. This could be probably one of the ways in which you can actually prevent the spread of infections to the people that are, playing with the body, like you clearly stated it in that case. So I think from my understanding, or from the practice that probably I've seen in this setting, or the African setting, is that injection is a word that is used for just inserting the chemical that we use for embalming, I mean the chemical used for treatment of these bodies, into the different body cavities. And that means, you are going to inject it into the chest cavity, which has the lungs and the heart, into the
right,
abdominal cavity, which has, of course, different organs, especially the intestines. The intestines are very, very important to really be able to get this treatment agent, because most of the decomposition actually starts from the intestines in that case. So it means you have to inject the abdomen very well as well, so that the treatment agent definitely is able to reach the different organs in the body that, of course, are ultimately going to decompose if not treated. Then for embalming is probably the right thing to do, or the right way to preserve the body, because for embalming, we are actually injecting. I'm still using the word injecting. We're injecting or inserting the chemical into the vessels. And when you insert the chemical into the vessel, it is going to definitely reach more parts, deeper parts, or it's going to cover a larger surface area than you would do with injection, with just basic injection in that case. And that is definitely the right way to do, because you are very sure the chemical that you are using is going to reach the different parts of the brain. I mean, the different parts of the body. For example, if you are injecting, you will not definitely inject the brain, because the brain is covered with a skull, which definitely will be hard to inject. So it means the
right,
brain definitely will not actually be able to get that chemical. But if you pass it through the vessels, it means going to even go through the let me say, the most hidden part of the body. You understand? The brain, and of course other areas which will not be accessible by just injecting into the body cavities in that case. So definitely embalming would be now the best way to preserve these bodies. I think injecting is a bit less costly. Basic injecting is less costly, and also it doesn't need a lot of skill. It requires less skill. Actually, if you come to our setting, most of the people, this injection can actually be done by people who are actually not medics. You understand?
right,
Think there are people who probably see it somewhere and they go and do it. And when you go to a certain village, they know this is the person going to inject all the bodies that have died from that region in that case, because it doesn't require a lot of skill, and it is definitely less costly in that case. But the embalming part, which is the best, is definitely done by skilled personnel. And of course, most of the people now that are going to do the embalming are the people working in the mortuary technicians. And of course, in our setting, I've also seen that the people working with the funeral companies have also developed that skill in that case, because of the fact that, they associate closely with the mortuary technicians or the
right,
mortuary team. They also learn the skill of embalming bodies in that case. And that is definitely the best, because it will definitely go to the deepest parts of the body, and it will definitely be much better in preventing infections and in preventing a decomposition of the body. Of course, there are very many chemicals that we use in embalming these bodies or in injecting these bodies. But I think the most commonly used, and usually it's a combination of different chemicals. But the chemical which is commonly used, or which usually has a high percentage in the mixture, is formaldehyde, which people know as formalin. And formalin actually is not only used for embalming bodies, but is also used at different concentrations. Is used in preserving tissues that are harvested from living people for purposes of analyzing them through histology or other methods of analysis in that case. So formaldehyde is one of the biggest component of these chemicals that are going to preserve the bodies. You can have another chemical called phenol, which is also very important. And most of these are important in disinfection as well as, preventing decomposition in that case. Yeah, so to answer your question, the most commonly used chemical is formaldehyde or formalin. And of course, there are different concentrations. And usually when you're preserving a body, you use a higher concentration than you would use when you are just, preserving a tissue that has been harvested from someone for purposes of analysis or for purposes of diagnosis in that case. Yeah, so that is it. But definitely embalming would be the way to go. If these bodies would be properly embalmed by skilled personnel, would be very sure that, the risk of infection is definitely reduced to definitely negligible levels, especially depending on the type of infection that you are dealing with. Because we know there are some infections that, are highly infectious. Others, of course, are not as much infectious in that case. So the embalming may not actually eliminate the infection or eliminate the spread of the infection, but may reduce the rate of may reduce the infection, or may reduce the probable spread of the infection in that case. So we need to definitely, for this to happen, we need to have people who are skilled to do this. And we need to have people who are dedicated and who are committed to doing this.
All
Because,
right, so
sometimes...
yeah.
Okay.
Not to cut you,
Right.
but then I wanted to ask.
Yes, yes.
You did mention that sometimes no, you did mention that the more attention has to be paid to the stomach area because of the organs that when you're embalming or you're injecting. But I
Yes.
mean, me being a layman and not from that sector, that's your field. You have more idea. I thought when somebody dies, you scoop out everything from the stomach. That's what we are told, that everything is scooped out of the stomach and then sewn together. Does that mean that it only happens when there's a test is required to know what killed them, or in generally
Oh,
nothing? Or
oh,
is
yes,
it,
yes, yes.
yeah.
Yes, I've understood your question. So, like I told you, the injection usually is used in the peripheries. You understand? In cases where someone dies from the someone dies from the community and they don't come to hospital. You understand?
Hmm.
So in that case, an autopsy has actually not been done. They have not opened or dissected the body to know the cause of death. There are rare cases where actually, in our setting, there are rare cases where actually people come to the hospital, but they take away their bodies without treatment, and they go and have their bodies injected in that case. So for this to happen, it means that the body has actually not been opened or dissected, or an autopsy has not been done. Whenever an autopsy is done, we have to definitely embalm the body in that case. When an autopsy is done, it means you open, you open and dissect the organs. And for you to definitely achieve very good preservation, you have to do the embalming of the body in that case. So the injection would be most appropriate when you are not going to open the body, or when you are not going to do an autopsy. If you are going to do an autopsy, definitely you now go for the embalming in that case. Yeah, so thank you very much for that question. I think it was a very good question.
So
I hope
yeah.
I've answered it.
Yeah, you did. You
Yeah.
did. Thank you very much. There's a lot we're learning
Yeah.
today. If you're just joining us, this is the dialogue series here at AYLF, and I'm here with a very good and famous pathologist who knows his deal. Like he's teaching us a lot here, and we're enjoying the session. Kindly put your comments, your questions in the comment section, and we would ask them on your behalf. So, a quick one: is it possible that I know sometimes in Africa we may have lack of logistics. Maybe our morgues will be so full that we have to put a body on top of another body. Is it possible that even though they've both been embalmed or injected, whatever the other person has suffered from could erode onto the other person? Is it possible like that?
Yeah, definitely. There are definitely some infections that are spread through contact. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if the body is not is not properly embalmed. There are infections that are going to spread through contact, through aerosols. In that case, so if the infection is spread through contact and the body has not definitely been embalmed very well, definitely it can actually spread the organisms to the body that it is sleeping on. And of course, if you touch that body, you'll definitely be at a risk of getting the infectious agent in that case. So, and rightly, like you said rightly, in our setting, definitely that happens a lot. Why? Because of the resources. The spaces are small, but the bodies are very many that are coming in that case. So that is a common practice. But we hope that if we think that if you have proper embalmment of this body, the rate is going to drastically reduce. And that is the hope. And that is the prayer that we usually have, that, let us try to embalm these bodies as to our best ability so that we reduce the rate of infectious disease transmission to probably negligible levels in that case. But definitely that is a possibility that can happen in that case. Of course, we have seen, diseases that, that are highly infectious, like Ebola and other diseases are very, very infectious, and, they are actually spread through contact. So some of those definitely, even with embalming, you are not safe. Understand? That's why we actually have extra measures when you are dealing with highly infectious bodies, because even with embalming them, we are not actually safe. So we need to even be able to put extra caution to make sure that we reduce contact, and we definitely be able to protect ourselves as much as possible by putting on, personal protective gears and other things that, are going to safeguard us. So the highly infectious diseases, even with proper embalming, you definitely can easily or can actually spread the infection to another body, or definitely even a living person in that case.
Right. I asked this question because
Yeah.
sometimes maybe we may feel that, oh, they are dead. There cannot be any cross contamination. There cannot be any cross infection because they are dead. The body is sealed. Nothing is working within them. How can a dead person get an infection or something? But then I've also heard that dead people have been brought home for funerals and they start to stink and they start to smell and then you hear the family members saying that, oh, they didn't take care of the body well at the morgue. And so over here we have something that we say that if your body you have a friend or a family whatever at the morgue, you need to consistently go and visit the body to make sure that the body is being taken proper care of. Because in this current minutes where we have people eating, dining, playing their favorite game with them, doing all sort of things when the dead body has been brought home for the funeral, I'm sure in their head they feel like, oh, the person is dead. There's no cross contamination. They can't be infected. But listen, if you're listening or you're watching this series tonight, I just want to tell you that your person may have died of malaria or typhoid or some headache or some meager diseases, but then with the logistic and the resources we have here in our part of the world, they may have been put on top of somebody or put beneath somebody who had a highly infectious disease that killed them. And your person may have contact that disease or whatever that killed the other person. And then you bring the body home for burial. And there you go, eating with this dead person, touching them, shaking their hands, do all sort of things. And guess what? You also get contaminated. I don't know how it is now, but growing up, when people come back from the cemetery or something, they wash their hands with leaves and a bucket of water. That's what I saw people doing. I don't even know if it happens again because I am in the capital and these things doesn't happen in the capital. Almost all the videos that we see but from the rural settings. And in the capital here in Ghana, people are actually allowing funeral homes to do all their work for them. So somebody dies, they said, oh, the funeral and burial and everything will be done as this and this. I don't want to mention names to give anybody credit, but then there's some popular funeral homes that they will say, okay, so everything will be dealt with by the funeral home. So the family don't actually assist the body until they've been laid in the casket and you have your final view and then you take it. But in the rural settings, it's different. We have a thing here in Ghana where if somebody has a home or they have a house, the body has to come home. And so they do the wakekeeping because unless maybe you're renting, if you're renting, no landlord allows a corpse to come into the apartment or the building. But once it is your family home, traditionally they allow you to come home for the last time. So they bring the body to the house and a day before. So usually it's the Friday, and people will keep wake. And one thing I've noticed about these things is when I was growing up was when people they're doing the wake keeping, the body is laid in state and all of that. They will leave one or two old women with the body to be sucking off this house flies or other flies that are getting attached to the body. Personally, I felt it was because of the foul smell or probably the rotting corpse that is there. And with the medications you've mentioned that you inject this non-living things with. Now this housefly goes and sits on this body and then jumps on somebody's food. What's the probability that the person can get it? I just want people to understand that what we're saying is a very heartbreaking incident that has happened, and we're taking it lightly as Ghanaians. We'll play with it. It's fun when we see it on social media. So it's just not about the person who is eating with the corpse or the person who is hugging the corpse, the person who is shaking their hands or do other unmeaningful, unlawful things with the corpse. But even you at the funeral grounds, who's probably eating your juice or your pie or whatever, if that fly or that insect move from the corpse to your food, what's the probability that you could contaminate something, doc?
Okay. Oh, that is that is a very good question. In the and I think like you clearly put it, if if definitely the probability is present, the possibility is present, we know it is very low, but definitely it is present in that case. And the main thing we need to know is that dead bodies harbor a lot of pathogens. A lot of pathogens. So if this housefly moves from a dead body to another, another either surface, either it can just be surface or it can be, food, like you said, or it can be body. There's a probability that actually it can carry that pathogen to or it can transmit that infectious agent from the dead body to a surface, which surface you can touch, or to a food, which food you can eat, or to you yourself, either to your skin or to any part of the body in that case. And houseflies, of course, as we all know, are definitely mechanical vectors. They carry pathogens from one surface to another. So if they get any pathogen either from a dead body or from the surface where the dead body has been placed, they can definitely carry it to or transmit it to another surface or to another body or to another something that can actually be touched, and then you cause infection to other people. So the probability is present. Research shows that it's low, but definitely it is there. And like I told you, for highly infectious agents, especially those that cause those that cause cholera. Like cholera, of course, is something that can move very easily, especially with house flies. Things like Ebola, those are very highly infectious agents. I mean, diseases that can actually be able to cause different diseases. But at least cholera would be one of the biggest or one of the easily carried pathogen or carried disease to another area by the houseflies. And of course, cholera is something that can easily move, something that can easily be transmitted from one person to another, and definitely something that we need to avoid, like you said, is avoid bodies decomposing from your houses. Understand? And like you clearly put it, usually in the urban setting, you have different companies doing the work and definitely treating the body and keeping the body. And by doing that, they are limiting the contact with the body by relatives, which is definitely a very, very good practice. When you go to the rural areas, it is different because of the resources, maybe because of a little bit of the culture or things like that. It's different. And definitely when you allow the body to decompose there, you are definitely breeding problems in your backyard in that case. So thank you very much.
Right. But Doc, in seasonal times, I think people have actually been taking the jobs of the houseflies and we are doing it themselves. Because I've seen people who are so engulfed with pain and emotions that the person is lying in state and they are crying and they are hugging the person. Some are even kissing them for their goodbyes. I mean, you literally putting your mouth on a dead body. And I think it's something that we probably learn from the West. Like, oh, people are at a funeral and they go kiss the dead person in the coffin, and we're also being blankets. We're copying blindly. But I'm tonight has been very insightful for me. All of these things that you told us, because I'm sure if you're watching or you're listening in any part of the world and you're Ghanaian descendant, or if this menace is also a Kankawa in whichever country you're listening in or watching us from, then you should know that you should be an advocate on some of these things on this particular menace, because it's not, as doctor has said, the chemicals used is high. Plus, once the person is dead, it doesn't mean that cross contamination has stopped. They're even more prone to cross contamination, and your person may have died of headache, but by the time you realize they are bringing some Ebola particles or COVID particles, pathogens or whatever into your home, and then you are eating with this person, hugging them, kissing them, doing all sort of various activities just to bid your own farewell. And my question is, how many of us even washed our hands afterwards? When I was growing up, whenever there's a funeral, they used to place a bucket with leaves, sometimes neem and mango tree leaves, in the water in the bucket at the entrance. And that was even meant for those who go to the cemetery. So when they go to the cemetery and they come back, they wash their hands with it, and then before they come back to join the funeral. But before then, as you're engaging with the dead body, touching them, do you even wash your hands? Is there even sanitizers around? Is there even soap and water, flowing water around? No. And some of these people who engage in these activities are youth who are high on drugs. And so at that moment, he's crying, he's touching his body who is dead. And the next time somebody gives him food, he's pushing it right down his throat. One time, when somebody even gives him those pills they take to get themselves high, he's taking these pills without washing his hand and ingesting it. So the next few months or a few years to come, he dies. And then somebody says, oh, nothing happens to him. Trust me, these things have eaten him up and have also killed him. And we don't want this thing to keep happening. So if you know somebody, please tell them to desist from this activity. I'm going to go on. Ato is not here. I'm going to go on to share with you what Ato told the AYLF team.
So maybe let me interject you. And
yes.
You bring out a very important topic, a very important point, of hugging, kissing, and you see what's the role of pathologists in this topic specifically is that one of the main things that you are supposed to do is to be able to do autopsies and be able to give accurate causes of death. But there are many cases in our setting where autopsies are not done.
Exactly.
That you are kissing someone, but you don't even know what they died from. You're having someone, you know what they died from in that case. So that is a very big problem in our setting, and people should definitely desist from.
And Doc, not to cut you in,
yes,
we're in a situations where even if the person died of a high incurable disease, the family is so ashamed to say it. They'll tell you, oh, it was just malaria.
Yes, that's true. That's true. That's true.
So you think you're kissing a malaria person, meanwhile you're probably kissing some Ebola.
Definitely.
Right. Yeah. So Ato had engaged the A1S team here. He was supposed to be one of our panelists to say this by himself. I think he's also having network issues beyond his control, I guess. So I'm just gonna go on and share ahead and share what he said. He said he was a witness at a funeral where the person who died used to be a food seller, a food vendor. And before the lady or the woman died, she used to sell rice and stew and all of this nice food, rice meals. And when he died and the body was brought home, they set it up in a way where they cook the meal she sells, and then place it in front of the corpse and put the corpse in a certain position to make it look like she was still selling the food. Now, in Nato's own words, people lined up to buy the food. And there was somebody, because the woman can't scoop, there was somebody holding her hand to be scooping the food that she has put her hand in to the other people in the lineup. And he went on to say that the people in the lineup were mostly people who were high on drugs. And some of them started eating the meal right after they had been dished to them by the dead person. Probably crying and saying, oh, auntie, this is the last meal you're serving me. Where am I going to get your delicious food to buy again? And right there and then, people were eating this meal that had a dead person's hand in it. And Dr. Raymond has already told us a lot. You don't know what you're eating, because at that point, this ice in the body is probably melting. And the ice is not just melting water into the meals, it's melting all the chemicals they were injected with, all the diseases that killed them. All the environment is melting along with the ice. Oh, Doctor, actually, am I right or wrong?
I beg your pardon?
When the body is melting of ice, doesn't it melt with everything that was in the body?
Yeah, definitely, depending. But I mean, the problem, if you don't treat these bodies, you're going to have fluids coming out. Definitely. Those fluids are definitely fluids that are infectious. You understand? Fluids that should not be touched in that case. That's why in most cases, even after treating a body, you either put cotton around the nose or cotton around the mouth so that those fluids don't come out. The moment those fluids come out, it means now that's a breeding ground for problems in that case. So anything that is coming out of a dead body is definitely something you don't want to associate with, something you shouldn't touch, something you shouldn't get close to in that case. And you're even bringing up a very good example. of someone who was cooking food. You understand? And you know, when I look at diseases like cholera, are transmitted through, unhygiene, food and other
Yes.
things. Understand? So now, if you are touching such a person, it means definitely you are the next culprit. So you have brought up a very important point. But anything that is any fluid that is coming out of the dead body, you shouldn't get close to it. You shouldn't touch it. You shouldn't really be close to it, really, in that case. And that's why definitely in most cases after treatment, even after treatment of these bodies, we try to cover all the orifices, especially the mouth or even the nose. Most of the fluids are going to come out through the nose in that case, so that we don't have any fluid coming out. Because we know that even after treatment, that fluid is not very safe. Understand? The relative shouldn't see it, the caretaker shouldn't see it, no one should see it and no one should touch it. You understand? So the point you are saying is very, very valid, and people should definitely be able to desist from anything that that is something like that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how I just want, I know we as advocates, we need to go loud on this one. 2 weeks ago, James spoke on the law aspect of this, the illegality aspect of this. And now we have you also telling us these aspects. And I was hoping to also get Audrey here to also hammer more on it. As pathologists, do you think, is it that your work here ends at the hospital? Because I think you have more in you, you have more information that people don't know. I didn't know some of the things you're telling me tonight, and I feel like if people should be aware of some of these things, they will disease from touching and partying and making merry with dead bodies. So
Yeah.
is it that you guys as pathologists also advocate for some of these things, or yours is just take care of the body, whatever happened beyond is none of your problem?
Definitely, it is our problem. It's our problem. It's our problem, definitely. And of course, we are supposed to be advocates for this. We are supposed to be advocates for this. You understand? We are supposed to advise the funeral company people, because for them we even come. They come to the department. They come to the mortuary section. We're supposed to advise them. We're supposed to educate them on proper safe handling procedures. We're supposed to conduct public education. You understand? To definitely be able to talk about these issues. We are supposed to support policy development. Understand? To make sure that stronger policies are put in place to prevent some of these ugly things that you are seeing in that case. And we are supposed to also train people, you understand, especially the frontline staff, you understand, the mortuary technicians, these people of the funeral companies, these people who will bodies from the mortuary, from the wards to the what? To the mortuary or to the cold room. So we are actually supposed to do more than, doing a postmortem, doing an autopsy, and finding the cause of death. You are supposed to do more than that. In that case, you are supposed to be out in the community, of course, in collaboration with other people, with other specialists, in collaboration with other medical health workers or medical health specialists. In that case, so we are supposed to be actually do more than actually we do currently. You understand? It's because of the workload and very many things that may stop us from actually getting time for those other activities. But I think we are really the right people to be able to go outside there and tell the people what is on ground and how to avert some of these problems that you are seeing. So, like, to answer your question, yes, we're supposed to be more than just, doing autopsies and, doing autopsies and, knowing the cause of death or certifying the cause of death. Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Hello? I
Yes.
think you're muted. Yes, yes.
Okay. Then on this note, I'm going to get hold of the Ghana Pathologist Association, because I want them to tell me why they are not advocating enough. I'm saying this because sometimes when you tell them as an individual, we have something we call, oh, you're too known, you're too book-headed, I don't want to tell me what to do, who are you? But if it's coming from an expert like you, maybe then they will take it serious, you see. So if the associate, I mean, it's not like they've not seen it. We've seen it. We all know. People see these videos and they repost and reshare. And we laugh about it. For me, it's so gross that I can't bring myself to watch them.
Yeah.
But if it's in the power of this, your team, Pathology Association, to be doing this advocacy, I think it will be nice if we round you guys up and put you on some television daily, so this menace dries out of our communities. Because when they hear from the experts, then they'll know, oh, something is really happening. But it almost feels as if that the job ends after you hand the body over to the family. That's where the job ends, and then we are done. You guys are done with us.
No,
You
actually, that's
know,
not where the job should end. The job should continue to make sure, or to educate, or to train, or to remind, or to, to support, so that even after handing over the body, they actually go on to do the proper procedures, or the proper safe handling procedures, the proper and safe handling procedures of, that are related to the burial process of this person. So we actually do more than that. And like you said, I mean, pathology associations have to be stronger advocates for this. Like you said, usually when you talk to an individual, they kind of, lay back a
yeah,
bit. But if you have a very strong association, a strong association can actually be able to be the driver for these different things. A strong association can be the driver for putting up, policies, for, putting up policies that are going to be supporting this issue. A strong association will be able to get resources to train people. Understand? Get resources for pathologists to go out in the field and talk to the community. Get resources for pathologists to, to go and, have different, different kind of continuous educational programs for not only the community, but even other medical workers. Understand? Other medical workers also probably don't know what, what some of these, some of the right ways to do things, depending on the level. Medical workers have different levels of education. So some of
right.
them may actually be acquainted with some of these proper. So it's not about, telling the relatives. Even you have to start from within your surrounding, within the hospital, before you even go outside. The charity begins at home. You understand? So you start with your home, then you go outside. So that is the role of, pathologists, of course, in collaboration with other specialists, such as public health specialists. So your point is very valid, and people have to listen, people have to act, and not only listen. Thank you very much.
All right. If you're just joining us, this is the AYLF dialogue series, and 2 weeks ago we started this talk on how the mishandling of dead bodies or dead remains is becoming a menace here in our society. And the week before that, we had come out with official press release and had gone viral. You can check socials and see where we show the legal implication of these things, and when we also call on the necessary government organizations to come on board and fight this menace. Today, we are excited to get somebody who is in that field to give us the medical aspect of this. And we have none other than the awesome Dr. Atwini Raymond, who is a pathologist at the Imbarara hospital, teaching hospital in Uganda. He's also the head of pathology at the Imbarara School of Science and Technology. I'm sorry, my tongue is heavy for this word. He's in Uganda, and from all that we've learned, he's heavy on here. He knows his stuff. He knows his stuff. And I have learned a lot personally. So if you're just joining us, I'm sure this is not something you listen or you watch by yourself. You should have called a sister and brother to come and listen to all the education Dr. Raymond is giving us. Because me personally, I've learned a lot. Sometimes what we see is not how it is, and what you perceive may not be all of that. But when you have an expert like Dr. Raymond, who is solid and well cooked in that aspect of life and field, He brings all the energy and all the expertise and advice we need on this matter. And we'll be honored to have him here on this dialogue series this evening. Not to say we're supposed to have witness Ato Kwamena to also come and share his story. But like I said, I already shared his story because he told the team here at AYLF, so I know what it was about. But we just wanted him to say it himself. We also missed Dr. Lawyer Audrey, who was supposed to be on the show as well, and to also give us a more deeper legal understanding on this. But then you should go back and watch our previous episodes or series. You will see that our Hunter James, also who is also a lawyer, also told us the legal implications of these things. So we already have a fair idea of legally what is to be done and not to be done. And today we have the awesome Dr. Raymond also giving us the medical aspect. For me, with this my big and oral mouth, I'm a one-woman social advocate change. I am going to go loud on my LinkedIn this week, and I'll be tagging the Ghana Pathologists Association because their colleague has told me that in actual sense, in regards to this particular menace, they are the best people to loud advocacy. So why are they not advocating against it? Because sometimes when we sit by people like us, when we talk, oh, you're too book knowing, you're something else, I think the only person who's educated. We get all the bashing and all the insults from these people. But once it's coming from an expert in that field, I'm sure they will sit up and know that they're putting their lives at risk while bidding their farewells to their loved ones. Dr. Raymond, I would like to ask your finals biddings on this one. What's putting your professional ethics aside? What's advice on the personal level that you're going to be giving to us? I mean, some of us young people who deal and fiddle with dead bodies.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I think probably I think your question is probably about recommendations. I would think so.
Right.
Yes, and I think in terms of recommendations, I think some of the things that we need to do, some of the first things we need to do, yes, we need to appreciate the culture and religious, dimensions. Understand? But we also need to have a balance. You understand? A balance between the cultural, religious, dimensions and the health, our safety. You understand? The safety of the people who are still living, but also the dignity of the person who has died. We need to be able to give those people a safe and dignified burial. You understand? But on top of that, we also need to protect ourselves because we don't want to, wouldn't want to follow the person immediately in the person who has died. So the recommendations to address some of these challenges, and there's a challenge that we didn't talk about, we talked about, open casket, like we saw in the videos, very, very wrong. We talked about the keeping bodies for long, especially in the villages, rural areas, like you said. There's also something which is a bit culture of washing bodies or dressing bodies by the caretakers.
That reminds me, not to catch you.
Yes, sorry.
Now my mind has cast back to these things, and I feel like it didn't start today. It started from generations because
Yes.
when we watch movies, people are asked to be in the same room with dead bodies. Dead bodies are washed, and widows are asked to drink the water from the dead bodies. And this
Definitely.
is and this is how this thing has, this is how it started. And then when somebody died, my tribe that I come from, I'm a Fanti. My tribe that I come from, if you live with someone that you're not married to and they die, you perform marital rites. And in that process, sometimes you have to put them a ring on their finger, marry them and all of that. And all of these were coming into contact with the dead body, you see. And in some part of Nigeria, I know that they will lock you in the room with a dead body for a day or two. And some part of Nigeria also, they will wash the corpse and make you drink the water to prove you're innocent. This is how this menace started. And now look at where we are today, Doc.
Yeah, it is very disgusting. It's very embarrassing. It is very filthy. But that is, those are cultures that we need to actually run away from. We appreciate the role of culture in our settings. We appreciate the role of culture in these burial practices, but we also now need to blend. You need to blend. You need to blend so that we play safe, and so that the body that is going to be buried also is dignified in a way. Yeah, so that is something that we need to run away. That's why we are having these talks, so that we tell people, yes, we appreciate the role of culture, but this is the pros and the cons. The cons are the pros. The cons are going to outweigh the pros if you do this. You understand?
Right.
The disadvantages outweigh the advantages. So can we try to modify our practices so that we uphold culture, but also try to give the person a dignified burial and also safety for the people who are still living in that case. So now we are looking at actually two things: giving the person a dignified burial, but also keeping the people, the caretakers who are going to bury the person, safe in that case. Yeah, so you bring out a very, very good point there and a very good example. So just back to the question you asked about recommendations. Of course, there are very many things that we need to do. Some of them may probably not be within our powers as people. Some of them may be above us in terms of, the ministries and, the government as well. But one, like the first thing we need to do is definitely public awareness. And this talk we are having is part of public awareness in that case. Social media is, of course, at least most people who are, at least the land people definitely can easily access social media like the way we are doing now in that case. But also TVs and radios in our different localities, you understand? To be able, to put up this message across. And during those campaigns, we shall be talking about safe burial practices, the do's and the don'ts, like we've discussed in this talk, talking about the infectious spread or transmission of different diseases from the dead bodies, and telling people that fluids, decomposed bodies are probably dangerous, definitely, in that case. And of course, in this process, we also need to try to give alternatives to the traditional ways of doing things. You understand? We modified them. We modified the traditional practices so that they are much safer for what? For everyone in that case. And community and religious engagement, we know there are very many community leaders. Mostly these burials are probably organized by community leaders and religious leaders. You understand? Including local council chairmans or chairpersons and the rest. So I think we need to work closely with them, because for them they may reach actually more people, or they may spread the knowledge, I mean the information, much faster than us, the medical workers. And training and capacity building is very important. And we need to offer training to the health workers. We need to offer training to the people that are going to be handling these dead bodies. And you see that a dead body is, I can say it's literally handled by many people. Understand? Starting from the ward where it has died from. A physician is going to be probably the last person to touch that dead body, either during CPR or something. I mean, a physician on us. Understand? Then, there is a process of what? There's a process of, taking the body from the ward to the mortuary or the cold room. Understand? Then there's the process of taking the body from the cold room or the mortuary to the funeral home. Then from the funeral home to the site of the burial. And when they even take the body to the burial, they first take it to the house. So now there's the process of moving it from the house to the grave, to the actual grave where they're going to bury from. So you see the cascade is long. There are very many people that are actually involved in this. In that case. So if we can be able to train such people and be able to offer them, education and training, it will be definitely very important for us. Of course, the other thing is infrastructure. Infrastructure, of course, is still a problem in our setting, really. Very big problem in our setting.
Right.
But of
Right.
course, if you have to have a loud voice, you can have infrastructure development very easily. Understand? Of course, expanding the cold rooms, like you said, so that bodies don't lie on top of one another, like you clearly pointed out in that case. And also in infrastructure, I don't know that this is very common in Ghana, where you know you have a designated place, especially in the urban areas, where you have a designated place where people bury bodies,
Yeah.
which could be some sort of cemetery. Of course, it's definitely very common in developed countries, but in our setting, it's not yet common. You understand? For us, you know, when we get a body, we just take it to our villages, our rural villages, for burial. But in developed countries, you know, they have places which are designed for you to bury in. And those places, of course, are environmentally safe in that case. And there are very many standard operating procedures that are definitely going to be what? Going to be used in that place, in that case. And of course, on top of that, you need to have policy and regulation. You understand? We need to become stronger in our policies. I think the lawyer probably wasn't able to make it today, but she would have told us about the laws governing these, you know. She would have told us about the different health acts that are governing this problem. You understand? Meaning that we need to make those laws a bit stronger. You understand? And with that, you can actually be able to what? To reduce some of these problems in that case. Of course, the funeral homes, we know that some of them, like you said, you didn't mention examples, but from my understanding, that there are some funeral homes that probably are not doing the right thing. You understand? So those kind of things. So it meaning that all funeral homes have to really be operating on a principle of, you know, procedures that are acceptable. Meaning that you need to register them and monitor them. Meaning someone has to go and monitor what these funeral companies are doing. Because we know, I mean, there are some funeral companies that, like you said, probably, you know, are about, you know, probably, you know, getting some cash and, you know, not doing the right thing. You understand? So if we can probably be able to monitor them and make sure that, you know, they do the right thing in that case. And of course, overall, for every step that we have mentioned, we need to be able to provide standard operating procedures. You understand? Starting from the hospital, you understand? Starting from the ward itself, when the person dies, these are the standard operating procedures to be taken. When the person comes to the cold room or mortuary, these are the standard operating procedures to be taken. When someone goes outside there, these are the procedures to be taken in that case. Yeah. So I think from my side, that is what I would say in that case. And also there is a famous quote from who? I think this I think she's called Mahatma Gandhi. Understand?
Mm. Yeah.
Who said that, you know, that is judged by how it treats its most vulnerable members. And of course, a dead person is really the most vulnerable member in the community because they can't talk for themselves. They can't do
Yeah.
anything for them. So you can, you know, you can play around with them and they don't complain, like you clearly say. You understand? So if we are able to treat these vulnerable people, if we are able to treat these dead people very well, our societies are going to be much better in that case. So that is my humble submission.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. So the words I took from is give the dead a dignified burial and keep the living safe. That brings us to the end of today's series. We were glad, we're honored to be joined by Dr. Raymond, and he's the head of pathology department for Imbarara University of Science and Technology in Uganda. He also doubles as a doctor at the teaching hospital in the pathology department. This man is full of knowledge. If you're just joining us, you're late, but then you can go back and watch all that he said once this session is over. He is full of knowledge, and I have personally learned a lot. I believe you have also learned a lot on today's discussion.
Sorry, let me
See,
just interrupt a bit. You
yes,
know,
yes.
when COVID came, even actually Ebola, you understand? When Ebola first came in I think Western Africa, I think that was Liberia, Sierra Leone, is the rate of people, the rate of infection was actually higher amongst the people who were burying the deceased. Actually, the rate of infection, I think most of the new infections, probably 80% of the infections that time were actually were acquired during burials.
Wow.
Understand? So you can see how big that problem is. And of course, because of that, WHO was able to set up different guidelines. Understand?
Yeah.
Which I think they call safe and dignified burial protocols to make sure that that is stopped. You understand? Some of the things, of course, is, the attire that you dress. I mean, the attire that you put on. Of course, there you needed, of course, very hard, very, very proper protection. You understand? But brings back the same issue of, you go interacting with a dead body and, then going back to mix, with the people when you have not, changed your clothes, you have not, bathed. You understand? The other thing that they talked about was, of course, burying the body within 24 hours. Meaning that the earlier the better, that was the catch point. And this applies even for because even these bodies that we're handling, we don't actually what have died from. You understand? So the earlier the better in that case. Of course, issues of disinfection were brought up, definitely, in that case. And you talked about that issue, I think, I think you also talked about it, meaning that if at least you have touched the body, can you disinfect yourself? You understand? With either alcohol or another disinfectant. Because, that's why I'm telling you, there's a way we can actually be able to balance the traditional and the safety and the dignified part of it. If you have touched the body, can you disinfect yourself before touching another person or before touching another surface? You understand? So those are some of the things that came up. Of course, even when COVID came, still you saw the way we're burying the body of COVID, it was definitely probably within less than 24 hours. And the kind of protection people had. You understand? That's the kind of burial that we need. You understand? Very fast, very reduced number of people touching the body. You understand? And that's why, that's why for them, they're even using these, that's why they would put the bodies in these body bags. And those body bags are airtight, they're airtight. They're leak proof. They don't leak. They're leak proof. You understand?
Yeah, yes.
That's why we need to currently, you understand? The coffins that we use currently are supposed to be airtight, are supposed to be leak proof. You understand? But now if you're using the kind of coffin that I saw, like an aeroplane, like a fish, how is that going to be even, how is that going to even be airtight? How is that going to be leak proof? I saw some of the videos actually, but there's something that looked like a drum. I'm like, what is happening in this part of the country? You understand? So those are the things that we need to desist from. You understand? We need to do and surprisingly, some of these people are doing it because they have a lot of resources. You understand?
Yeah.
That's my thing. Some of them are doing it because of ignorance. Others are doing it because, they have a lot of resources and they're ignorant at the same time. You understand? Yes. But if you use the normal coffins, if you follow the normal procedures, actually, they are going to be much less costly than doing the glamorous things that you want to show off, the show-offs. Those are definitely more expensive. If you do the basic things are definitely much less costly. They are actually less costly than the glamorous things that we see, putting people in different positions, showing off. That is definitely costly. You understand? So we are doing something that is costly. At the same time, the thing is actually risky to ourselves. At the same time, we are not giving the person a dignified burial. You understand? So everything that we are doing is very costly. You understand? And not helping us at all. You understand? So that's what I wanted to add on before we close the discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramona Twini.
Yeah.
He is the head of the the pathological department in Barara University of Science and Technology, and also he's a pathologist at their teaching hospital all the way in Uganda. This man is fully loaded.
Yeah, sorry to interject. The teaching hospital is called Imbara Regional Referral Hospital.
Okay, you
Imbara
heard it
Regional
from the
Referral
man.
Hospital. Yeah,
Wow, wow.
yeah,
Thank you very much, Dog. We appreciate all the
yeah.
expertise and experience and knowledge you brought onto the show this evening. I personally, like I keep saying throughout the show, I have learned a lot. Please, oh, if you watch this show, take what you've heard. This is coming from an expert who is loaded with experience. He's in the field and he's told us all of these things. He said, even if you're touching the body, how sure are you that you have alcohol around to wash your hands afterwards? And we're not talking about alcohol as in beer and club stout and those alcohol, like actual concentrated alcohol that you can use to wash your hands after even touching them. And we don't, because most of these things, areas where these things happen, the people are high on drugs and they don't even know they're supposed to wash their hands. They're shaking hands with the next person, crying into the arms of the next person, and then you know expanding the mode of transmission, engaging more people in the circle. Please, let's desist from playing around with the dead and bury them in a dignified way, like he put it, whilst we keep those of us alive safe. This will be the end of today's dialogue series. My name has been Daisy Mina Enchi, AYLF president for Ghana, and it was awesome hosting all of you here tonight. This discussion or this series will be up on our YouTube channels and also on all our social media channels. You can always go back and listen to all. Better still, find somebody when you go to the villages to visit your family, play them this video or audio. Make them listen to what an expert had to say about this kind of lifestyle and this kind of menace that is eating us up as a cankerworm. It's very important. Maybe if you go and tell, they wouldn't believe it. So when you go, take your phone along and play this series for them to hear, and they'll be surprised at the things you're putting their life at risk at. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles at AYLF on Facebook, AYLF on Instagram, AYLF everywhere. Twitter, everywhere. We are there. Like I already said, AYLF is a group of young adults who are generational thinkers, and we're changing the African narrative. We're challenging the status quo, and we're challenging government policies into a positive one. So please join us. We have a network platform where you can join and connect with like minds, whose mind coincides with yours, and then together we'll build the Africa we want, the Africa we need, the Africa that speaks for us. Until the next series, it's good evening from my side of the world. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Kofi, are we off?